Welcome back to Meet You at Breakfast. I am Ben, joined here by Brian, Julia, and Dylan to talk about the finale and reunion of the Traitors US Season 3. And, I think we have a good amount to talk about here between the finale and the reunion, and then also just kind of like doing a little bit of a retrospective of the season. But firstly, we have 4 new winners of the Traitors US franchise to talk about. Literally overnight, going from 3 to 7 winners is in the history of the show is kind of crazy. We can also talk about each one individually, the kind of story of the season overall, and also maybe kind of dive into like how we think each player, what their legacy might be. I guess firstly. Does anybody want to talk about their immediate thoughts of this cliffhanger resolution? I ended up being wrong. I said at the last week, Brian and Dylan were both like, yeah, I think that Brittany's going to turn on Danielle and vote her out. I was like, okay, I'll take the opposite stance and say that I think that she's going to force a tie, and then we'll see what happens. We have a second time in the last 2 years, Brittany ends up betraying Danielle somewhat accidentally.
Yeah, I saw it coming. Obviously,
me too.
We're rarely. So Ben, really, it was just you silly fool. You were the only one that was wrong about
Okay,
it. So obvious.
I mean, in my defense, I stand by the fact that even if Brittany thought that Dolores slipped her vote, her still voting for Ivor there was correct strategically. And I think that Brittany is like a pretty underrated strategic player. Even though herself in the reunion was like, oh, I'm not a gamer like Boston Rob, I think that she is like a pretty strong social strategic player. She was really well set up in BB14 to win that if the unseen roll didn't happen. So I did not expect her to make what I think was a mistake, that blatantly of a mistake. So that was what I was going off of, but I was wrong.
Yeah, I was fully expecting it. Yeah, just the way that her face was afterwards, and also Dolores saying that this didn't happen in the reunion is wild to me, because they literally showed them looking at each other and Dolores going Danielle, and Brittany's like, okay. And then when she voted Ivor, Brittany was visibly shook. Mm-hmm. And so that's what made me think oh, she definitely voted for Danielle, because the expression she had after Dolores's vote was like, how dare you? You just told me that you were going to vote for her too. They communicated via eyesight. So, and then for Dolores to say in the reunion that didn't happen, Brittany's like, did you watch the show? It literally, that's exactly what it looked like. So it was very interesting.
I didn't watch the entire reunion. I was just trying to watch it before we got on here. I pretty much got up to that point, and what I gathered from the reunion to what I had seen so far, that Bob the Drag Queen, Danielle, and Dolores are all just delusional people in life. I feel like they were watching a very different game than what we were watching. That Dolores thing really pissed me off, because I think Dolores is the only one that I'm pretty much I really wish she didn't win, even though I think she kind of redeemed herself with her vote again this time, and I think that her kind of being lumped in with Gabby and Dylan and even Ivar, it's really frustrating. Then that at the reunion kind of really pissed me off. I think the big thing is, I come out of this, I feel the same about Danielle. I like Brittany way more, and I think it's pretty. I feel really bad for Brittany, and we'll talk about it. I think Danielle really, really screwed Brittany pretty much the second she took her on as a traitor, to then everything that happened at the table and the things that she did. I don't necessarily know if Brittany was going to win easily without that, but it definitely did not help her. And I don't know. I am a Brittany fan now, though. I will say that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, she gave really the only entertaining part of the episode to us, with the back and forth with Dylan. I agree with you, Ben, that it would have been the right move to do that. But yeah, just going off of what I thought I saw happen. But yeah, it was kind of unfortunate that Danielle couldn't. I get it. being betrayed and everything sucks, but I don't know. I wish the traitors or the people leaving could say less.
Yeah.
You know, just be like, "What are you?"
Mhm.
That's it, and leave. Because, like, you know, I don't think it's necessarily that fair to have like. It kind of reminds me, and you know, I've been, I think, consistent with this. I don't like it when people on the way out of tribal council or when they get voted off of Big Brother are like, here's all these like secrets or stuff. It's like your game's over. It's over. Like,
Mhm.
take the L, get your torch stuff, go meet Julie. Please leave. You know.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I don't know how you enforce that because like at that point they have nothing to lose.
Mhm.
So it's like you can't. It can't be like court. You'd be like, the jury needs to like disregard that. You can't. So I agree. I think to go back to my king, Boston Rob, over here to my right shoulder. He didn't give it away at all when he left. Even Bob the Drag King really didn't. He just said, the traitors are amongst you. That wasn't giving away. I don't really remember what Carolyn was just too sad to say.
I mean, Bob the Drag Queen definitely tried to give like a very coded message that Rob was a traitor, but it was like so kind of coded that it didn't really like land strongly.
Yeah, it was like too wordy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with it to a degree, but like it is kind of a tricky thing to like really to police, right? Because even within the game itself, right, the traitors are not allowed to explicitly like tell the faithfuls that somebody is a traitor, but they can campaign against them as if they are a faithful trying to suss them out as a traitor. And like that like line is very, very thin, and like it is like very like trying to be like, oh no, that's kind of over the line, is like, there's not really like a hard and fast like this is not allowed kind of situation when you can basically just like heavily imply it and like not really like break the rules. So it's kind of tricky. It's a very kind of tricky situation when you have a show like the Traitors, where like you have players in the game that have unequal information, like as a game mechanic. It's not different. It's a lot different than a show like The Mole, for instance, where there is a player that has unequal information as a mole, but in that show, the mole is technically like working for production and isn't actually a real player. And so like it's a very kind of different dynamic, and you have to police a player that has information that they can't share. And like we see this in Big Brother a lot too, when players are given like secret twists or secret information, and part of the contingency of that twist is you can't tell like other players about it. And like there will be people that will like heavily imply certain things and like get right up until the line of like not breaking that kind of rule. So yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of intrinsically tricky. I don't really know how you handle that.
Goes back to, this is not a perfect game when it comes to rules, and
yeah, it's not a game.
No.
It's not a all-the-time game.
I don't know if it ever will be.
I think you can just be like, go up there and Alan be like, thank you so much for playing. Please reveal and only whether you're faithful or traitor. And then if someone does anything outside the bar, be like, okay, you are not getting paid for your appearance here because we can put that in the contract,
Well, that's the thing though, because like, is that worth like not having like angry faithfuls getting banished and then going up there and be like, screw you, you guys are all fucking idiots. I can't believe you didn't know I was a faithful, like having these kind of explosive like West moments, and like Tony like calling, Rob a sellout and stuff like that. Like, is it worth like losing those TV moments just to like have a marginally fair game? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe even just for the traitors too. Like they just have to go up and be like, you got me. I'm a traitor. See ya.
And then they'd know.
Yeah, then when somebody starts giving like a protracted speech, they're like, okay, it's a faithful then.
Yeah.
And then you don't have that you don't have the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just like I don't know the Wes moment, and maybe I think Wes is a little like corny.
Mm-hmm. No, the West one was corny. Yeah.
Like I didn't grow up watching the challenge, so like the only things I've ever seen from him have been like kind of like negative and like bad, and like my perspective of Wes is very slanted by him getting dog walked by Chris on the spin-off of the challenge, him bowing down to Jesse on House of Villains and begging for a vote and not getting it, and then like his appearance on the Traitors. So to me, it's like Wes is like not that impressive, but like I'm sure if you're a Wes fan, that moment was like great. You know what I mean?
Ripping monsters and going again, doing donuts on your dirt bike after.
Is that kind of how he is?
I mean, that's how I was when I watched the challenge. So, like, I imagine a large crowd probably didn't evolve. So, yeah, maybe.
I know. I hear from them on Twitter. I'm sure.
That's how I was trying to describe like the challenge to my younger brother, who he's in his early 20s now, but like he was not the age to watch challenge when it was in its prime on MTV, and I was just like, yeah, like these are the type of people you gotta imagine. Like this is like back then, especially in that time, middle school, you were like, hell yeah, people fighting, drinking, running into each other on the beach, like just very dangerous, like the gauntlets of them just like dropping shoulders on each other. Those are the days. Now I avoid conflict at McDonald's when I'm like waiting for my meal.
I feel like, yeah, for me, it's like kind of like a reality TV star work program. It's like the people who want to like keep it going, which I respect. I think there should be that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now the Traitors is kind of that.
Now the Traitors, yeah, we're actually seeing the ecosystem arise of the reality TV work program.
It's a safe space.
And you know what? Quite frankly, I am jealous of them. Live in the real world and they can play silly games. Should have been the career path I took more seriously than anything else.
Well, I didn't get to give my thoughts on Tom's bitter goodbye.
Yes, please let us know as the premier authority on Vanderpump Rules on the podcast. You need to eulogize Tom for us.
I am like so rooting for my girl Stassi to be on next season. She would absolutely kill this show. Like she would do so good. As for Tom. They even said it during the reunion. They're like, oh, like the media has forgiven you. And I'm like, kinda. Yeah, I guess. Honestly, I think people just had a fun time making fun of his like it was just good TV. So I'll give him that. Obviously, he'll never live down saying that women are better cheaters. Never gonna be something that people are gonna forget that he said. But I do think that the show was good for his reputation for sure. I think he's definitely come out better than he went in. But he's still Tom. I think he got better as it went on. He had crazy theories, but I was fully expecting him not to make it to the end. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything bad to say right now, which is good. No bad news is good news for me. So, yeah, I think he did pretty fine up until the end. And I didn't think he was going to make it to the finale anyways. So I think that was probably, I had a feeling he was going to go far. And I feel like that was exactly the right time for him to go out too. So I knew it was going to be a faithful season win. I don't think the Traitors deserve to win it all this season after all the tomfoolery. No pun intended.
I do wish he was in Dolores' spot. I think that would have been probably the most satisfactory ending for me, at least as a Tom a Tom truther.
Dolores, the thing for me was like she was so like not with it the entire season. Like the random voting, the not knowing what's going on, and people are trying to give her props because she was a corrections officer back in the day, but like, so like she didn't really she didn't do anything. Like, I don't know. I feel like I look at like Gabby and Dylan and I'm like, heck yeah, I'm so glad they won. Ivor, yeah, fine. But I don't know. I just, for her to sit there and be like, I won something. I'm like, did you though? Like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, the check cash is just the same. Like her check cash is the same as Gabby and Dylan's.
yeah, and
yeah.
she just, she was a floater, I guess. She grabbed a life vest. I don't know. Like, I don't know. And she did. She just floated her way all the way to the end. And I even think like the whole thing with Brittany at the round table too was just classic Dolores, just being like, yeah, let's do this. Ivor. It's like, yeah, I don't know. She was very inconsistent. But whatever she did, it got her to the end. So I don't know. But I think she was like the least deserving, but she made it. So we can't really discredit her for making it to the end.
Yeah, I think that we probably
can.
We can, but
I think at least we can all agree. Like, out of the 7 Traitors U.S. winners, she's 7 on 7 on the list. But like, for me, I think that the fact that there was a 4-way split and we have like somebody like a Dolores in there, like I wonder if that should be a wake-up call to the show that they need to up the prize money. I think that's probably the only real solution, because like what you're basically looking at that point is like what's 200 divided by 3 is like what, 66. So like you're basically looking at like the people in the final 4, each of them has to weigh, like, if I force another vote here, am I going to make it through? And is it worth going through that for an extra like 15 grand, right? So that's like essentially the calculation they're making, like the calculation that at least a player like Dylan is making, right?
Yeah.
Like, is me risking potentially being the one that's probably going to be voted out? Or at least maybe put into a 2-2 tie and then go into a coin flip. Like, is that worth an extra 15 grand to potentially just like throw the game at the end for no reason versus just like taking the win right now?
And a show like this, it's really not even about the money, because they all have previous fame, and say like sitting at the end being like, you know what, like I could go against her, or I could just walk away and take my whatever money I get with the bragging rights of winning, as well as what comes with winning with media and everything. So
yeah, I don't think Ivor was too hard up.
Royal.
So like I definitely feel what you're saying there, where it's like we need to incentivize something, which like I feel like there are people who would. The problem is the cast has a lot of people who wouldn't do that, and that's who we got. All 4 of them at the end were like that.
Yeah, well, I think that Dylan would. I think Dylan would have, if he was confident that he wasn't going to be the most likely person voted out there, which it seemed like that was going to be the case. It seemed like at the very least, Dolores and Gabby would have voted for him if it was forced again. And like the best case scenario for him is like he gets a 2-2 tie into a coin flip. And is like him going into a coin flip to potentially lose the game when he has the game won worth an extra 15 grand? And no, it's not. So
no, and it's funny that there was no gamers left at the end too.
Well, so they keep making them the Traitors, and then
But
yeah, I thought we would see some more like long-term strategy within the episode past, like it felt like the only strategy was we got to get through this final 5 vote and then we're all just gonna like split the money. And I was hoping somebody would be like, well, we could get 3, or like, oh, we could get 2, but nobody did that, and that is very disappointing as a viewer, and it makes me understand why they did the cliffhanger into the finale, because otherwise this would have been like a really like thin finale, just not much there.
Yeah, when they were
Go ahead.
I was just saying I'm not as down in the episode as that. I think the editing did a really good job of building what little suspense there were. I think the Brittany thing was decided way before. I don't think that there was a chance they weren't voting for Brittany, and especially when Dolores went over to Dylan and be like, if you're a fucking traitor, I'm going to kill you. I think even then, like when they tried to make it seem like potentially Dolores could flip, it was very clear she wasn't. Even that challenge I thought was fun. I thought that whole helicopter thing was pretty cool, and I think like the whole scenery of it all was fun. But I agree, it definitely wasn't the strongest episode of the season. But I think it all goes back to that. In the end, I don't know if I particularly care who wins overall. I really didn't want Danielle to win this year, and kind of like the Traitors just played so bad that the Traitors winning would have felt, wouldn't have felt right at all. So, especially they're walking away with $50,000, which obviously if I got $50,000 right now, that'd be great, but that's not necessarily life changing money. And I think that like a lot of that thrill kind of gets lost with that too. So I think the ride is worth it when you get to this point to not have as thrilling of an ending. I think if we had the setup of somehow Brittany got one of them out and was able to carry, then like, if we got into that window of them trying to negotiate ending the game, I think that would have been way more thrilling. But I think Brittany was dead in the water. I really do. I think as soon as Danielle brought Brittany on as a traitor, I think that was kind of it for her.
Yeah, and I just don't feel like any of the traitors it was a faithful season for sure. I don't feel like any of the traitors deserve to win. And even if Brittany made it to the end and she finagled a win, I don't even really feel like I could be comfortable saying that she deserved it, because like I just feel like all the traitors were just like meh, and she was a traitor for like 2 days. And I mean, that would have been a great like slide in move to just kind of take the win at the end. But I don't know. I just feel like none of the traitors really played their best. I mean, obviously I love my girl Carolyn, but like still like none of the traitors played a good enough game. Like looking at Suri, none of them were like Suri. So that's what we have to compare it to. So you are. No, yeah, it's true.
Way too high.
Exactly.
Set the expectations for what the traitors would be.
But she was
no one
perfect
has
for
been
it.
able to live up to it. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think if the bar is 3, like no one's gonna do the bar, right? Like it's such a like she played like basically a perfect game. I think that the story of the season definitely was how did the traitors all lose, as opposed to like how did these 4 faithful in particular win? Like I mean, like Gabby and Dylan both got like a bit of a story. I think they were both very fun characters. I'm definitely coming out of this season a fan of both Dylan and Gabby. But like it was definitely 100% like going through every single traitor and being like, okay, how did this traitor lose, right? One by one. And that definitely, I think, explains a lot of how we got Danielle's story on the show. And I think Danielle's story on the show does kind of diverge from how she was actually perceived in the game in a lot of ways. And I think that she is being underrated as a player by the fan base, because the show basically showed us all of her worst aspects to like justify us being happy, or the audience being happy with her losing right at the end. Because if they showed her playing like a Suri style game for 80% of the show, and then she lost at the last minute, that would be very like not, that would be disappointing. And I don't think they want the audience to be disappointed. Like I don't think that even Danielle played at that level, but I do think that she played less badly than people are giving her. I think that people are giving her too much shit. I think she made a couple of big mistakes, and was definitely over dramatic, but I don't think she played poorly. And I actually disagree. I don't think that Danielle doomed Brittany. I think if Brittany makes the correct vote at the final 6, they have basically a 50-50 chance of winning the game together, which is what I said last week, which is why I thought that Brittany would make that vote. I think that, even if they had voted out, if they had murdered Ivar instead of Tom before then, I think that also probably increases their chances of winning the game at 6. I definitely don't think that they were dead in the water at the recruitment. I don't know. I guess like I think that a lot of the way that the end game story was told, and I think a lot of the way the season story was told, is retroactively based off of the outcome. And yeah, I guess I'm not like totally bought in to this like idea that like Danielle especially was like a bad player. I think that her going after Carolyn over Rob was misguided, which I said at the time, and I think that like a lot of the theatrics was a little over the top. But beyond that, I think she played pretty well. Like I mean, like Dolores was completely snowed by her, like to the point where like Danielle went out as a traitor, and even still, like Dolores, like I don't think fully comprehended it.
I don't think that's saying too much of swindling.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah. Like, yeah, that's fair.
I definitely see what you're saying. The only problem for me though is that watching as a viewer, I do agree. I think when you're rating her gameplay overall, I think she's getting too much shit. But I think that a lot of people, I think as the viewers, and I imagine potentially maybe as the cast watching back the season 2, I do think those theatrics just come across as just like so unlikable, and I think that feeds into it overall. Because I do agree. I think when you step back and look at it, if Danielle was able to get out of this, then we're obviously saying the exact opposite. Like obviously bringing Brittany on was 10 out of 10 big brain move, and it was like the perfect thing she needed. And even if she ended up flipping and using Brittany basically as a meat shield to get down and try to play off like, hey, this is the last traitor. I think everything else that came before that you kind of forgive. But I think because she went out like that, and I think those theatrics just come across as just so unlikable. And even from what I saw, like I said, in the after show, she still comes across as very, very unlikable and like kind of delusional and like just not like she is in a different reality of how she played compared to like what we saw. And you could be right. You could be like, the edit is obviously, it's the same thing of like someone's like version of events. There's like one person's and then the truth. I'm sure that there's like two different edits of Traitors than what actually happened. But I don't know. I feel like we probably got a pretty accurate overall kind of portrayal of Danielle just based off of how the rest of the cast has kind of engaged with her. But maybe that's also because most of what they've seen has been exactly what we've seen. Kind of like once they were killed off or whatever. So yeah, I just do agree. I agree with that one point. I think that her gameplay overall deserves a little bit more credit, but I think it kind of folds into that whole thing of just the Traitors ate themselves from the inside out this season and were the complete mess that like allowed the rest of this to happen. And it started Boss and Rob. It started with like Traitors not wanting to work together, and it wasn't just Danielle, but I think Danielle is obviously the star of that shit show.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
The theatrics were just crazy. The award at the reunion was hilarious to me. They're like, it's true. Like it was just so like, I won't unsee her on the floor. Like, oh my God, like get up. You're fine. So I don't know. That to me, I feel like no one faithfuls were acting like that. Besides like, and so it was just for me, I was like, well, we all know she was a traitor, but like she feel like she just did too much at some points. But yeah, I feel like it's not fair to like discredit her entire game. And I feel like people are just kind of going after her, and like the whole NDA thing and telling Brittany, that was wild to me. They like barely touched on it in the reunion, but I don't know. Do you guys think that that's true at all or no?
Please elaborate on this because I haven't seen this yet. So like what NDA thing?
So
the whole
telling Brittany that she was a traitor before. Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know. I feel like that's like a big no-no. And I feel like if they were having a conversation in the castle, then like somebody that worked on the show would in an earshot, or they have their mics on, like they would have caught it if she did tell her. So I don't know. I feel like it's a very random theory, but
it's a very dumb conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Danielle's been on a season Big Brother, an all-star season. And like, if she was not someone who is like trusted to play by the rules, she wouldn't have been invited to all these shows.
Right.
Like, I think it's so dumb to like put that on her. Puts her in a bad position, puts the show in a bad position. I will say I'm more sensitive too because I like Danielle a lot. I think she's a very good player. And I feel like people online were way too hard on her. And I've like lost respect for Carolyn in this situation a lot because she like plays into it a lot on all of her appearances and Twitter and everything. And it's just like, all right, like you lost a game, like get the fuck over it. You know, like you're sending hate to Danielle because she beat you at a game. Like, you know what you're doing, you know, like, you know, these comments that you're making are going to egg on the anti Danielle crowd and she's going to get harassed even more. And it annoys me to the point where I'm a little bit like kind of out on Carolyn as a reality person, you know.
I think that's interesting. I think I haven't taken it from that because I think I've seen Brittany on a lot of those like podcasts and conversations too, because she does that podcast. Carolyn does that podcast with, is it Carson, right? Carson from,
I don't think that anymore, no, but I think she still does one, but not with Carson.
I think they do still do one with Carson. At least recently they did that because they did that interview with Brittany recently.
Okay.
Unless that's not Carson.
And the unfollowed.
Yeah, I thought that there was like a thing with falling out with Carson or something. Let's get tribal
after the Brittany episode. Yeah.
Oh, so that's like very recent then. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of people are seeing Danielle for the first time on Traitors, and so I think when you're looking at it through that lens, like me, I think it's pretty understandable how you have kind of this opinion of her just being a villain, you know. And
no, and I know you're not someone who's like gonna tweet mean things at Danielle. Like you're a normal person. Yeah, maybe you have a burner that I don't know about. But there are like some pretty crazy people within the reality TV fandom, and I just feel like Carolyn, who has played another game and gone through a whole season of watching it back, should know better than to do some of the things that she's been doing. That, you know, because she's bitter at Danielle, she's like okay with directing more anger at Danielle from the crazies on social media. That's my big, you know, issue with Carolyn at the moment.
That's fair.
Again, Traitors is a very personal game, especially like in the beginning. It's like it's a lot of like people you like, people you don't like. Like it's different from Survivor in the sense that like sometimes strategy has absolutely nothing to do with what you're doing in this game. And so I do understand how people can have like be personally hurt by some of the outcomes of this and like the way that they're treated on the show. Not to say that you're wrong, Brian, that what Carolyn's doing is wrong, but I do understand kind of how some people like Carolyn can kind of come away with that.
And I think if Carolyn wants to be mad at Danielle, that's fine. But she doesn't need to like kind of weaponize like crazies on Twitter to get like some kind of, I don't know, revenge for Danielle beating her on the Traitors, you know? Like when Danielle was like, Brittany, if we ever played a game again, no shot are we working together, that's totally fine to me. Like if Carolyn had been like that, like Danielle did enjoy working with you, don't think we're gonna be friends, fine. But like, you know, I think there's just some things I've seen happen in the last couple of weeks that have kind of annoyed me, you know?
Yeah. Do you guys think that if Carolyn was a traitor and Danielle wasn't, if that Carolyn would have gone further?
I guess it depends who replaces Danielle. Yeah. I think that like, I really don't think that Danielle played a significant role in Carolyn going out. I think Carolyn honestly kind of screwed herself. And then just like the Danielle stuff was like kind of just like the frosting on the top of it. Like the way that Carolyn played the chess mission was really bad. It's just not like, it's just like we talked about at the time, like it was just not smart. Like just completely unnecessarily, like just unforced errors. And like Danielle was like playing it up as if she was like, you know, forcing Carolyn to make these errors or tricking her into making these errors when like, that's not really, it didn't really seem like that. Like it seemed more like Danielle was just like conscious that they were errors and was letting Carolyn make them when not speaking up. So it's like, you know, like maybe like if she had a faithful partner who was more loyal to her, that partner at that point might have spoken up and been like, hey, maybe we shouldn't, take this strategy during this mission because it's going to make you look really suspicious, as opposed to Danielle, who just let it happen.
Mhm.
But like, I don't know. I really don't think that Danielle had a major impact on Carolyn.
Yeah.
I think she deserves a little bit more credit than that in terms of, but I also think all the traitors in the end have no one to blame but themselves, like their individual selves. Even Bob the Drag Queen calling out Boston Rob and kind of just being kind of overplaying maybe a little bit at that point. Then obviously Boston Rob overplaying, and then the whole Carolyn and Danielle feud. I think Danielle might have fired the first shot in that feud, but it definitely became back and forth. I never bought that Danielle wanted to genuinely kind of redeem her relationship with Carolyn. And so I think she deserves a little bit more credit, but I think in the sense of you're saying what actually ended up being what got her out, I think it's definitely Carolyn just kind of not being able to kind of control her game at that point. I think that's fair too. And I think back to talk about that whole podcast thing with Carolyn too. I think they got to kind of go back to the whole thing about how like unserious this game is about the rules and all that. Can you imagine like a player that's currently in Survivor? And maybe there is one right now, a player that's currently in Survivor that has an active podcast going while the season is on, like getting other people that were on the show. And like, I understand wanting to promote and the show itself a lot, but I don't think Survivor would ever do that. I think Jeff would put a lien on the person's house if that happened. Like just like things would not be go down.
Amazing Racers do it actually. It's not like uncalled for within like the CBS reality scene. Like it's like it's common for especially like modern Amazing Race seasons to have like the teams do podcasts and videos about their experience as the season's going, which I personally don't like. I don't like it.
That either. Yeah.
I think it's like way too easy for like unintentional spoilers to like kind of slip in, or like people to like read between the lines and certain things. So yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah, I think it's totally fine. Like, say you're a podcaster and you go back and you just do your normal podcast job that isn't talking about it. I don't like it either. I don't think they should. And like, I know Rob Cesternino said like he didn't go back on Survivor because they were like, oh, you can't do the podcast that season. Yeah. And he was like, wow, that's like how I make my living. So I can't do that. And if Rob goes on the Traitors, I don't really want to see him podcasting actively about the Traitors while he's on it, which I do think he will eventually go on the Traitors. And luckily that, they have a big enough team over there to like cover it without Rob covering it.
Do you see Joe Mangianelli, how you say his last name, from Dylan Islands, of the two people he wants to see on season 3 are Dylan Efron and Rob Cesternino?
Love that. Yeah. I think Rob would be fun on any reality show. He's a really funny.
Yeah. Well, he's also said that like if they call him for 50, he's going to do it. He's like,
I'm sure that's like this is my last realistic shot.
Yeah, so I think like it's a little. I think it's also in the last year or two he's put a lot of work in to build up kind of the network to kind of run itself in case he does want to go on one of these shows.
I think you should, personally. But
it would be real very fun for sure.
And same thing with us. Like, Ben, you get on the Genius US, we might cover the show without you for that season. Like, I think that's fair. I don't think people would want to like, get spoiled. Or at least I don't. And that like colors my view of it.
I mean, I would feel uncomfortable as a player because I feel like I'd be walking on eggshells the whole time, like trying to like make sure that I'm only talking about stuff within the context of what's aired, and like trying, like I would just like out of principle not want to do it just because I would feel very uncomfortable like as a player not trying not to spoil things that haven't aired yet or like accidentally give things away. And like I feel like that wouldn't be fun. I would rather just wait for the season to fully air and then go on a podcast and talk about the full experience.
Right. You don't want to break an NDA for real,
Yeah.
All the tweets would for me for the whole time in Aaron just be like, make sure to check out the new episode tonight.
Yeah, most generic thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was shocked when I saw that Carolyn was doing a podcast on the Traitors. I was like, how is this possible? How are they allowing this? But yeah, like you said, Dylan, Jeff Press would never allow this.
No,
I mean,
I guess so, maybe.
A moratorium on social media entirely during season airing from players, where they would like only basically allow them to do what Brian said, just like a very vague, like tune in and watch the show, and they were not allowed to like tweet or like post Instagram at all about the show outside of very like curated tune in for this episode kind of things. So yeah, they've loosened up
with Big Brother. It's live, so you don't
Right.
have to worry about that. And then when the players get voted off pre-jury, it's kind of fun because they're just like in the same position as you are, just watching it happen now with a little bit more insight, obviously. But
yeah, like Bravo shows are like that too. Like even like Sierra with Summer House, like they all post like a carousel of photos like the day the episode's airing, like from that episode. Obviously they filmed it last summer, so they obviously haven't talked about the show, released anything about what happened, and they just are allowed to post like the day of content from that episode, and that's pretty much all you see. So it's just like a network thing. I feel like that the Traitors probably has to kind of grab by the horns because they obviously pre-recorded the show a while ago. So all these people have just been out chilling for quite a bit. So they've been sitting with things for a while too. And it's like, you just don't want to risk someone slipping something that they're mad about still and just kind of spoiling it. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, fans will read into anything too. There were fans like reading into like who's following who on Instagram still, and like being like, oh, well, if they're not following each other, there might have been like a falling out in terms of the game. Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky.
Well, that was also part of why I was so certain Danielle voted for Brittany.
Yeah, because they weren't following each other.
Was because Brittany and Carolyn were both kind of like, you could tell they were not friendly with Danielle on that podcast.
Yeah,
so like that was like one of the reasons why I was most confident that was going to happen, was because it was very clear that Brittany was not friendly with Danielle at that point. Which, like, if they had split, if they had split $200,000, I imagine you'd be pretty friendly with that person.
That's a great point. And I didn't see the podcast, but I was surprised Brittany was one on a podcast talking about the season. And then when it got taken down, I was like, oh, they must have said something. But it could have been as simple as the vibes were just like pretty anti-Danielle, and that was like obvious to the outcome of this cliffhanger, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how, I guess, hands-on, with them allowing this, how hands-on production is in terms of like curating, or like, like do they have to send stuff to them to like okay it before they put it out, or like what? Because like, yeah, I mean, when you have a season like this where the climax of the season is this cliffhanger, and like basically that's like the entire buildup of the narrative of the show is like so hinging upon this Brittany and Danielle relationship. Like 15 minutes into the premiere, like less than 50 minutes in the premiere, like 5-10 minutes into the premiere, we get this like this backstory of the Reindeer Games feud between Brittany and Danielle, and we get talking heads from both of them in confessionals talking about the feud, and then we see their relationship develop over the season into them eventually working together, into them eventually being traitors. Like that relationship is hugely pivotal to the story of the season from like front to back. So hiding how their current relationship is so important to like hiding what happens in this finale. So I'm very curious if they like, the producers are like, hey, pretend to like each other even if you don't, so you don't give away a spoiler. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. And even Brittany saying at the reunion, she was like, I met you twice before we played Reindeer Games together, and then obviously Reindeer Games didn't work out, and then we already had this bad blood going into Traitors, and like people were making it seem like they were Big Brother girlfriends for like years leading up to it, when they had only met. Yeah, they'd only met in passing a couple of times before playing Reindeer Games together. and obviously that was influential in their relationship in and out of the game, but like people were making it seem like they were like besties for years and then Brittany screwed her over when they should have been working together. It's like that's not what the narrative is. So
to be fair, them like kind of having the whole cry fest on the episode
Mhm.
when like being like, I want to win this game with you, and like I was so worried you're gonna go home. That also led me to believe that they were much closer friends than what we
Right.
were told at the reunion. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I was very surprised to hear that. That what you say like before this they had 3 total hours together or whatever it was.
Before reindeer games, I think, yeah. But that's also like girls being girls. Like they'll be like, "I got you. Like let's ride to the end together." Like it could have just been like like 2 drunk girls in the bar in the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
being like, "I got your back. I got you." Like that's just also just being a female as well. So I wasn't fully shocked by that, but hearing Brittany say at the reunion that they had little to no interaction before reindeer games together was shocking because I genuinely thought that they were like acquaintances before that. So
Do we think that when they go back to that hotel that they're like completely isolated from each other?
Oh yeah, I would say so.
probably
Because that's,
yeah.
I guess now I'm thinking if the only time that Danielle would have been able to tell Brittany without anybody else knowing would have been back at the hotel. But if they're completely locked away from each other, that's not possible. I think that like you said, I think that whole thing is BS. Like I think that seemed like something that started online from somebody that was like mad. And like that's just where it came from there. Because like if that did happen, who leaked that? It's not like Brittany or Danielle would say that. It's not like and it's not like somebody for production is going to say that, and like there wouldn't be something coming out saying that that's not true. I feel like that's just such a big online
Right.
point.
I think it was on one of Brittany's like Patreon things. She talked about how like at a certain point she like had figured out that Danielle was a traitor, and then like and she basically like kind of leaned into that relationship additionally because she knew that, and she knew that Danielle was protecting her. With the kind of looking forward of getting into an end game, kind of basically doing what Dylan did, which is like sticking with her until the last second and then turning on her. And I think people like I guess either deliberately or unintentionally misinterpreted that to be Brittany knew Danielle was a traitor because Danielle told her when it was just like she figured it out. As I think Dylan also figured it out and allowed himself to be marinated by Danielle into the end game because he knew that she wasn't going to murder him.
The only other way I can think of is if Danielle really did say something to Brittany is I also heard that there's like a boys' hotel and a girls' hotel. If there was like some time where they were like alone together on their way back to the girls' hotel. But I don't know. I just don't want to believe that it's true. I don't really think that she would do that. But if the boys' hotel, girls' hotel thing is true, then they might have had a time when they were alone.
I mean, it also makes very little sense if you're Danielle to do that unless you're like very confident that you're able to recruit her in the end game. Like it's a huge unnecessary risk that doesn't really pay any kind of dividends for Danielle, because it's not like Brittany had like an enormous amount of social pull, like any significant amount more than Danielle did already with people like Dolores or Dylan or even like Tom. Like I don't really think that it does anything for her. Like it doesn't gain her votes in terms of protecting her from banishment. All it does is like if you never get a chance to recruit Brittany, it guarantees that like Brittany is going to push to get you banished at the end of the game. It doesn't make any sense to do. It's like it's just it would be strategically stupid from Danielle's perspective. I don't understand why like anybody would think that she would do that.
And it's also against her contract too. So even if she did win, for example, and it was true, they probably would have had to take like her winnings and things like that too. So like I don't feel like she would have put herself in that position if she felt like she was going to win too, because it could have just ruined everything in the end. So,
yeah. And like I said earlier, she's like a professional reality star person. Like you go into these shows and you're like, I want to help the show be good. And
Yeah.
I don't buy it. I think I don't think Carolyn said it. I've seen people be like, Carolyn said this, which I don't think is true. I think what Ben said is more accurate. That other people have said that they figured it out, and then it's got attributed to Carolyn somehow. I don't think that's true, but I think Janelle made a tweet like at the very beginning of the season where she was like, "Oh, I knew Dan was a traitor." Like immediately when we were playing, and if you know someone, you're just gonna know.
Yeah, that's the thing too, right? Like, I think a reason for why that it was kind of easy for somebody like Brittany to potentially pick up on Danielle being a traitor is because all of these theatrics and things that Danielle had done throughout the season is like very different than how she is in like normal situations and on Big Brother. It's it's like so over the top as a character. Like it's like so outside of the like normal bounds of how she behaves that like if you're somebody like Brittany and have interacted with her before and played a game with her before, like how she actually acts like in these games, and that's not it. It's at all. Like it's like so it was so manufactured if you know how she is. And so I think like if you're Brittany and you know that like Danielle is like putting on this like completely over the top act, like really over dramatic manufactured personality situation, like there's no reason to do that if you're not a traitor. Like it doesn't make sense to do that as a faithful. So I think that probably is a huge reason as to why she was able to pick up that Danielle's a traitor. Similar to like Brian said, Janelle is able to pick up that Dan is not behaving like he would normally behave if he, in these games, if like he's a faithful. Because if you've played, if you've played even weeks of a game with reindeer games is only like 2 or 3 weeks long. It's not a long game. But like even if you've played like 2 or 3 weeks of a game with somebody before, how they behave. Like how their personality is, like their idiosyncrasies. You can tell when somebody is acting different.
Yeah. And Danielle was acting very different. She was just very over the top.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Bob the Drag Queen was really great in the reunion.
Yeah, so this is something Dylan kind of blew over. I'm curious how you thought Bob the Drag Queen was acting delusional in the reunion. Because for me, I think that Bob the Drag Queen was not. I would say he was definitely like unapologetic and like definitely like eating into the drama, but I wouldn't say he was delusional.
See, that was my word for it. I thought he was delusional.
It's very important to note though that I only saw 15 minutes of the reunion, so that's a big thing. So the very limited things I saw, I think a lot. The one thing that upset me, and I it actually doubles back to what you were saying earlier, Ben, was that like basically saying that Brittany really did not have to vote for Danielle, and that was her own choice to do that, and it made no sense. Where like and that's not what you said. That's what Bob the Drag Queen said. You just said that the right move would have been for her to vote for Ivar. And I disagree with Bob the Drag Queen completely, where I think that, I think say Dolores did vote for Danielle. And then Brittany is the only other solo one who voting for Ivar. And that kind of like, I feel like that just throws up a big red flag of like, why are all these people turning and you're still the only one not doing it? And I think it just furthers the kind of the view that if she's a traitor, which like clearly it was already there anyway. And then everything with Danielle happened. I think that's why when you see Dolores, and we talked about this last week too, obviously, but I think when you see Dolores do that, what appears to be what she says was nothing of her like looking over and like looking back, like I think when you see that, you're like, well, there's really nothing to gain from you at this point to vote with Danielle.
I completely disagree. I think that I said this earlier in the season too, when talking about like it's almost like it's almost counterintuitive where almost always the traitors will vote each other out at the banishment where the traitor goes out. It's like pretty much never the case that a fellow traitor will kind of go down with the ship with a traitor who's getting banished. Like it literally never happens, and it is definitely counterintuitive because the like natural inclination for you would be to be like, oh, this person voted with the traitor, and when they were banished, and they didn't like flip their vote. But like historically, that's just simply not the case. It's like almost always a faithful who's gotten completely snowed, who is just like super convicted in their beliefs. Like you have a Sierra with a Boston Rob, or you have a Dolores with a Danielle. Like it's pretty much never the case that a traitor will go down the ship with another traitor. So I think it's actually very faithful like to do so. And you could kind of just play it off like she completely snowed me. Like, we had this relationship that she exploited, yada, yada, yada. I think there's a lot more you could do. I think her flipping her vote from Gabby to Ivar and then to Danielle, it came off as very gamey and very strategic. And on top of the reaction from Danielle and all of that, I don't think she gains anything from flipping her vote off of Ivar there. Like the two options are either Dolores does actually keep her vote the same, in which case her and Danielle are basically like in a 50-50 coin flip to win the season together. Or Dolores does flip her vote. And in that case, Dolores, in my opinion, is looking more like the traitor than her. And Danielle is going out with you, going down with a ship with her. She's not going to be pissed at you. She's probably going to direct a little bit more anger at Dolores, in which case a lot of suspicion might go on Dolores. I just completely disagree. I do think it's counterintuitive. I think it's counterintuitive to be like, as a traitor, you shouldn't go down with the ship with the other traitor. But I think that it sometimes makes sense to. Because like when you're a traitor, right, that the person that's getting banished is a traitor. And so intrinsically that if you vote with them, then you should look sus if you're on the wrong side of that vote. So traitors are almost more incentivized to jump ship because they know it's a bad look than a faithful would be, who is just like really snowed into their convictions because they don't know any better. They honestly like and earnestly believe that they're standing up for somebody who's a faithful.
See, now you're sounding like Dylan trying to like justify in the end there, like that double, like there were still two traitors left, and it could be Brittany and I think Dylan was doing that to try to set up a better endgame for himself.
I think he was doing that to try to get Dolores to vote with him and Ivar against Gabby at a fire, so that him and Ivar could then turn around and vote out, Dolores, and then him and Ivar could split the money 2 ways instead of 4. That was how I read that. Maybe that's like me giving Dylan too much strategic credit, because and that didn't end up happening. But, yeah.
I also read that of what I said earlier, where maybe that's something that like people have a situation where somebody could have said the same exact thing and like they just never makes the edit, but they really wanted to push the potential of
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think that I just like this about the Traitors US editing style, where it feels like a lot of meta strategies don't make the show because the show is like trying to discourage them, like things like cozying up to a traitor and allowing them to marinate you and then cutting them at the last minute as like an angel traitor. Like we kind of saw a little bit of it with season 2 with Sandra, but like it was like very minimal. And then also this kind of strategy of deliberately voting out people that are faithful to try to thin your numbers. Like you kind of see it in the way that like Alan presents the end game, where it's like, if you think there are no more traitors, then you should end the game. But it's like, there's also reasons to not end the game, even if you think there are no more traitors. But the show is not really like pushing that as a strategy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, especially when there's 4 non-gamers left at the end. They're like, yay, let's kumbaya right now. Like, we'll all split the money. Like, good job, you guys. Like, I feel like that was just kind of the way it ended. And I feel like it kind of just goes on par with the like faithfulness of the season. So, I mean, I feel like none of them were ready to like cut each other's throat at the end for the money. They were all like, let's share it. And I'm like, all right, sure.
I knew it wasn't going to happen because I looked how much time was left in the episode. And there was
Well, yeah.
left. It's just like in Survivor, where like
Yeah, like, 3 minutes left? Yeah, they're not doing another vote.
in Survivor, where we have like 4 minutes left of the episode, we haven't even got the tribal yet. I'm like, well, something's happening. Yeah, I never thought that Dolores was going to stop the game from ending. Though I think once again, I think for better or for worse, sometimes when maybe they over dramatize things, I do think they did a good job of adding whatever suspense they could into this episode. And like you said, Brian, I think it was in hindsight, it was very clear why they made that the cliffhanger, and I get that. And it gave us something to talk about for a week, so it worked. Even as much as I hated the cliffhanger itself, it built up that anticipation.
Yeah, they made the cliffhanger because the episode ended after it resolved, because it was very obvious that Brittany had no outs.
And even I told you guys last week, I thought her getting Danielle out, I think I said it was still a 50-50 chance for her, and you guys were pretty adamant there was no way. And
I said I gave her a 10% chance while thinking that there was still a murder at Final Five.
So
no murder at Final Five.
I wanted to bring that up. Is there usually is one, right?
I think they've reworked the end game this season compared to like seasons 1 and 2 to make it a little bit better for the faithfuls, which I don't know if they necessarily need to do. I think it's fine. I think it's I think maybe they probably reworked it to make it make parts of it better for the faithfuls and parts of it better for the traitors. Because like not revealing the roles is obviously better for the traitors, but like not allowing a final murder is better for the faithfuls. But yeah, no, without a final murder at the final 5 there, like Brittany has 0% chance of winning. Like there's no outs for her. Like Cerie's not getting out of that position. I'm sorry. The best player in the history of the show is not getting out of that position. Like she was dead in the water, which is why I think the move was stupid to not go down the ship.
Who was the best murderer there? Probably Dylan, maybe.
If she could murder the final 5, then the best murderer was Dylan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think there should be like an adjustment in like traitors can throw around, like we're not going to murder anybody this round?
Well, so. I think that like the way to have done it would have been to not do a murder the recruitment round. And then you have one extra slot, and then they could have murdered and then got into 5 with a banishment and then into fire.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They
it was very weird because traditionally you can't recruit or extort and then also murder.
Mm-hmm. It's usually one or the other.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like a give and take thing, where if the traitors decide not to murder that night, but then there's not going to be a banishment the next day, and like allow, I don't know what you would get from that. Allow for more swindling to happen. I'm at the point though, as much as like we've there's a few things like maybe a tighter NDA and maybe not letting people go on podcasts while the show is live. And also, I think the seer was just a big doo-doo.
I think the seer can work. I think that it was a dud. Well, my issue with the seer is even if a faithful wins it, you're not incentivized to reveal. Like even best case scenario, I would say Dylan won the power, picked Brittany, confirmed Brittany is a traitor. Like then what, right? Like even like Dylan is like, both Dylan and Brittany on the episode talked about how there's no incentive to like
say like they're a traitor.
Because then if you create a 50-50, right? This is what happens in Mafia or Among Us or any of these games. Like, traditionally it's very good for the faithful or the town or the crewmates to force 50-50s, because in those games, the good people win as a collective. Like even if you die, you win as a collective. So it's good to force a 50-50 because there are fewer traitors, and it means you can get one of each out and then the herd. But like in the traitors, it's an individual game. You have zero incentive to force yourself into a 50-50. So the power is kind of useless.
I think the seer could be interesting. I think where they used it is the issue. I think the timing they used it's the issue. I wonder if they should do something where maybe it's a little bit more of an in-season game for the players to play to try to find the seer throughout the duration of the game as it's going, and kind of like
Well, the
whether it's
issue
announced who
is-
finds it or not, but I think that there's something better to be done there than what they did here.
the issue is though, like, if you do it early and a faithful gets the power and successfully exposes a traitor, then they're just going to murder that faithful the next opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
Well, it's do you it's almost like a do you want it type thing, you know? It's
Mhm.
no, you don't. Like, it's like almost bad to get the zero power. I would say, like, it's a death. I think the zero power overall improves the odds for the faithfuls as a whole, but is like a borderline death sentence if you're a faithful who gets it.
so that
Yeah,
Maybe
probably
it
shouldn't be an
becomes-
open. It should be a secret power that you're not doing it face to face. You're just like, you want it. Alan tells you separately from everyone else, asks who you want to know. They give you an envelope. With
Yeah. That's the way to better balance it. Yeah.
Yeah. This show is so flawed, but so amazing. So
It's interesting to see them kind of work through everything
yeah.
live. You know, like Ben and I have talked about like making a show a lot and been like, okay, we're gonna have to do so many test things to avoid this.
To make sure it's workable. Yeah.
I mean, this is not even like the first time like this has happened, right? Like Survivor, like, they worked through multiple tiebreak rules. They didn't, idols weren't introduced until season 11. Like, there's like Survivor kind of had like a natural evolution before it kind of settled into like a kind of a rhythm of how the game functions. Big Brother also, and Big Brother 1 was basically a totally different show. Big Brother 2, there was no veto. Big Brother 3 had different veto rules with the silver power of veto. And then 4 and 5, like they changed the veto draw rules. Like, it wasn't until like BB7 until they really kind of like fully cemented the like modern rules of Big Brother. So it's like, I think Traitors just kind of going through that right now, where it might take like 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons before it like really like says, okay, these are the rules that we're sticking with. We kind of figured out the best formula.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get there. I think we'll be sitting here for multiple more seasons, and it's just going to get better. I feel like it's been consistently good, so it goes up from here.
Agreed.
I've said it before. I think some certain things with this game, though, if it this isn't their best season, I assume, in terms of viewership yet. I think there's some things where they're not gonna think it's broken. Why fix it? And I think outside of the podcast thing, because I do think I agree. I don't like, and potentially, I guess like I was reading that it was spoiled. Carolyn spoiled that they didn't recruit Brittany like way before. And potentially that's why her and Carson had a falling out, was because Carson pushes her to, I don't know, spoil things, I guess. I don't know. I think outside of getting rid of that stuff, it depends what you want out of this game. Like the social chaos, like, do you want like the finer gameplay? Because I think maybe you can get both. It'll be a process, like you said. And I was like, we talk about Survivor, early season Survivor, you see it evolve each season. It'll get there.
Definitely.
A 9 out of 10 season. I'm gonna put it up there. We usually do our grades right at the end of each season. I am giving this an A minus for sure. This was a very, very good season of TV. I enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite seasons of reality TV that I've watched recently. It was maybe my favorite that I've watched live for sure. It was very entertaining. I loved it. 9 out of 10, A minus. That's my grade for this season.
Same for me. I agree.
Yeah, I probably land around like an 8, 8.5. As far as like reality TV overall, I definitely think it's the best, like hands down the best season of the 3 seasons of the Traitors US. So
great cast.
Really great. Yeah, really great cast. Was looking forward to it every week, and it kept the momentum enough for me. This finale aside being a little like everything before it was pretty great, and like can't forget that. Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
What's your guys' hopes and dreams for season 4?
Yeah, let's do like a top 3 like people each that you want to see cast, or maybe like a number 1 or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dylan,
I'll go my first. Brian will like this. Tyson. I think Tyson would be really fun in this game for sure.
Definitely. Yep.
I mean, I've already said I want my girl Stassi. You guys got to look her up. Stassi Schroeder, my girl.
I want some clips now. She's very funny.
She's hilarious, and she's so like she loves like the deep, dark, scary shit. So this is like totally up her alley. And her outfits would slay. And I also wouldn't mind seeing my boy Frankie Grande on there too. I feel like that wouldn't be a bad. I love him. Or Zach Rance, maybe.
I've seen Frankie Grande. I don't think Zach Rance is doing reality TV ever again.
No, but I could see Frankie doing it for sure. He would be.
I think
like
Frankie has his name has come up in like
Yeah.
the like
he would do it for sure.
It's a good show for Frankie. Like,
Yeah, I love that man.
Great.
Mhm.
I'm looking at a list right now. Spencer Pratt would be fun. Get Spencer Pratt back out in the. He needs a home.
I mean, if both Tyson and Spencer have history too.
They got beef. Yeah. What was that?
Yeah, the
Before News AF.
Tyson Power Hour or something like that.
Yeah.
This list has Alec Baldwin on there. Is that the choice?
Why not? Yeah.
Hoda Kotb is another one.
I'm surprised Ali, because usually it's one of the other Baldwins that ends up on reality shows. I think Stephen Baldwin did The Apprentice or something like that.
Yeah.
Tyson's a big one because I feel like Tyson time was wasted going on the challenge. If he's not coming back, but who was watching it? I don't know anybody that watches modern challenge.
I'm just saying, he always won. I don't know.
I guess it was a waste of my time. Then. If he's not going to play Survivor 50, which it sounds like he's probably not. Still, fingers crossed though. Get him on this show. Like I think he would be great on this.
He would be fantastic. Yeah, he would. He's the kind of person who will like kind of. He's the kind of person who sells it. Like he'll sell the theme. He'll like lean into the murder mystery aspect of it. It'll be very like dramatic and funny and snarky.
Yeah. I have a few, I think. I want Rupert from Survivor.
Wow, okay.
And I want him to be made a traitor on night one.
That would be awesome.
I want to see him struggle this.
Yeah, the moral strife.
Yeah. First, a more answer, someone I think could do pretty well. Sophie Clark, I think, could do really well on a show like this. Let's get someone from Big Brother. What about Tiffany or Claire? Maybe both. Maybe both. They can work out and have a redemption from Tiffany having to dispatch Claire. But we saw Claire do really well on the RHAP Traitors and also be very fun and entertaining. Claire won the Amazing Race. She's pretty great. And I think Tiffany could have won that season under, different circumstances if it was just, not her playing for the benefit of the cookout entirely. I think she could have won that season. So
yeah, Claire is definitely in my top 5, especially like Ray in the Amazing Race as well, and then obviously like her winning RHAP Traitor is like it was very obviously like it's just like an online one-day game, but like he played like very very well and was very entertaining. And like I didn't really have her on my radar as far as people I would want on the actual version of the Traitors, but like that sold me for sure. I mean, I think my number 1 is Taylor Hale. I think that
I thought of her too. Yeah,
I'm surprised that she hasn't been contacted yet. I would say I know that she's a fan. I know that I don't think the moment has passed for her, but I mean, I think that Taylor Hale. I've also seen a lot of people pushing for Angela Rahman. We'll see.
I mean, that'd be awesome.
Do we give it to Angela or do we give it to Tyler?
Angela from
Angela from the last season.
Oh, I was thinking Angela and Tyler. That's where my brain immediately went.
Wow.
Sorry, Angela Robbins is Tyler's Angela. I said the wrong Angela. What is Angela's last name? That is actually Angela Murray. Sorry, Angela Murray.
Okay, yeah, because when you said Robbins, I was like, oh my god.
You're correct. I said the wrong name.
Yeah.
I was on the right page, but obviously
I wouldn't mind seeing Tyler though. Actually,
I don't know if Tyler would do. I feel like Tyler is kind of over reality TV, but maybe not.
Yeah. He was on the challenge semi-recently.
Yeah, he was on a challenge, but that was
That's
also
more
like
his
a few
vibe.
years back.
Yeah. I feel like the Traitors isn't really his vibe, but you know.
Yeah. I think that
Funny
the
how-
Traitors also goes for like kind of a good mix of like personality and gameplay.
Yeah.
With kind of more, I guess, more leaning towards gameplay, probably more. You know, especially when they're getting like Survivor and Big Brother players.
Mhm.
So
We've said it in an earlier podcast, but I think Snooki and Mike, the situation, are two.
Yeah. Honestly, I could see Vinny doing it for sure.
Yeah, Vinny would be fun.
He did dancing, so maybe.
I'm looking at a Reddit post from last year of dream people
Mhm.
to go on season 3. Danielle Reyes is towards the top of that list, but it's very funny. A lot of people mention Wes. And I guess Wes was very adamant. Wes, who was on this season, was very adamant this time last year that he was not going to be on season 3, and he was. So that furthers me back to be very, very hopeful that Coach will be on season 50 of Survivor. And if he's not, throw Coach on Traitors. Not as a traitor, though. Give him his righteous life as a faithful, and like he may be one of the first ones either killed or banished, but that'd be a fun episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, for Survivor, I know that like the names I've heard that are in the ether are like Kelly Wentworth, Michelle Fitzgerald. For me, my number one's probably Natalie Anderson. So
I've seen
You're
Courtney
really good.
Yates thrown around a lot.
yeah, I mean, getting Courtney Yates back on a reality show would be very fun. It's been like, almost 15 years. So
Been almost 15 years. Jesus Christ.
actually, it's been exactly 15 years, right? You guys realize is 2010. It's exactly.
We're gonna be dead soon, Brian. Give it time.
Whew. That's
Mhm.
damn, I didn't need that put into perspective.
Yeah, you didn't need to remember the HGV was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
No. It just feels so much more recent, but yeah.
Mm.
I mean, we got it a little bit last night on our Survivor podcast talking about a certain player potentially coming back, and Ben was like, "It's been 20 years. It's more than 20 years.
Almost 25.
Holy shit!"
That's how old I am. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Oh
my
my
age.
Yeah. Crazy. Time undefeated.
It's humbling for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess that's anybody else? Any other names you want to throw out there before we kind of wrap this up?
Yeah, nothing crazy standing out. I'm riding hard for my girl Stassi, and I'll die on that hill. But I think she'd be perfect for it. I will send a strongly worded email. I'll do what I gotta do.
Is she Tom Sandoval's ex?
No.
No, she hates him so
I
much.
didn't know. Yeah.
She's best friends with his ex before Ariana.
Keep
Okay.
up, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I do.
They're all friends, but like he's on Stassi's last season of Vanderpump, which was like 2 or 3 years ago. He like screwed her constantly, and she was just done with him. She like bitched him out in one of the last episodes, and she does not like that man. So
Yeah, been really fun to get these out of context clips of Tom Sandoval on Vanderpump Rules. Like, I guess, I mean, I feel like I was somewhat aware of him because of the soup. And they would often cover Vanderpump Rules, but like I'm seeing so many more clips now of him.
Tom Sandoval in the whatever is his band. They're on tour, and the somethings whatever.
I saw someone hire his band for their wedding, and I was like,
that's a choice.
My wedding.
I would.
That's a you know what? See if Jenny's into it. You never know.
I don't think she will be. We've also signed a contract with another one.
Yeah, it's a little late for that
Yeah.
now, but
Be like,
you never know. Maybe they're available. They'll do the after party.
yeah. No, I think that'd be the most Brian thing ever to have a reality TV star like, at his wedding.
And just like Tom Sandoval sweating everywhere, just like in the microphone, like, oh, yeah. Like, I don't think anybody really wants to see that. And people pay to see it.
Right.
I want to see it.
Yeah. And you would pay to see
if he came around, I would go see him as like a
Yep.
thing to make content around.
Podcast field trip.
Yep.
There we go.
And
Uh,
I think it'd be funny and fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another name I just thought, Chloe Vetch, I think would be fun. I mean, she's British, so I don't know if they would like try to poach her for the UK version, but the UK version doesn't really do the reality stars thing. So she did the US version of The Circle as a British woman. So
incredible reality TV talent.
Yeah, very, very good. She almost won the US. She almost won that season of The Circle. She was like one of the best players on that season. Very entertaining. I think she would bring it.
I agree. Yeah,
Mike White, but I think he's too big now. I think he's too big.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other? I can't really think of any other big names.
I mean, I'm sure we'll have things that'll come up too within the next year of people conspiracy theories and whatnot. But I'm intrigued to see. This cast was really good. So
the other name that I saw floating in terms of actual spoilers was Kaser. So that could be interesting.
What up, Kaser?
What up, Kaser?
I do think they're gonna swing for the fences for a few people just to kind of keep momentum going from this season. So
yeah, I mean, there's just so many good personalities out there.
Yeah, it's an endless well. Reality TV is an endless well.
Especially now that they've got the Bravo and the Bachelor and all these other shows they can dip into. I mean, there are plenty of other. Ooh, I didn't even think of that. Like past Bachelor people that I would like to see on it. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Joey, the past Bachelor, on it because he is just like the sweetest man ever, and he would be like the ride or die faithful that everybody would be like riding with. Like he would be so like confused and like having to like banish people. He would be so sad. So like it would be a great faithful person. But not many other Bachelor people coming to mind right now.
You don't like a Dolan, you don't like a Juan Pablo or like a no.
That man did his time on TV and he does not deserve it. That his season was atrocious. Atrocious.
Well, I only know Juan Pablo because like I met what's his, I believe it was his season. Charlene. I played a live game with Charlene, and we were like number one allies with each other, and she talked about him because like she'd like stepped out of that game, and make sure that I'm getting the right season here. Charlene, she quit in sixth place. And she was like, "Yeah, he's a piece of shit."
Yeah, that sounds about right. The other person that came to mind was Tasia. She was excellent. She took over for Claire, who was the Bachelorette from Juan Pablo's season, who became the Bachelorette afterwards. And she like dipped out in like the first week, and then Tasia came in, and Tasia's a queen, so she would probably be good. Or Caitlin Bristow is good too. If any of these names you know any of them, but. Caitlin Bristow is like a bad bitch, and she would do really well too. So, and she was on Dancing, and she won Dancing actually, and she would probably do really well. So,
manifesting it. This also might just be my permanent background for Survivor too.
There you go.
Fair
the
enough.
Smiling pictures funny.
I mean, look, I don't think Coach on season 50 is that crazy. I think that's definitely like I think he's in the mix.
According to him, he has nothing left to prove to this world or to God except for his faith, and that he has a beautiful son and a family. So there is a good chance he could be on 50, I guess.
Okay, but I mean, how about $1 million or maybe even $2 million if they up it again?
I think if he gets the call, he's going. For sure.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach. Yeah. He's going back on TV.
Excuse me. He's been on TV. He's been playing the trumpet, right?
They didn't show it. They didn't show him on TV during that Bills game. I was hyped.
That's right. That was a Bills game. Yeah. Bullshit.
I was so ready. I was about to, tweet all about it. They didn't even show it. How could they do that to my boy?
All right, we have anything else we want to get in before we wrap this up for the season? It's been a lot of fun.
I think we're good.
I'm ready to bring it home. A fun season. I had a lot of fun recording with you guys. I really can't wait till next year. Kind of stinks that we're gonna have to wait that long But it was a lot of fun. Maybe once we get like an official cast announced, we'll start that'll be our next show. But no, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, 9 out of 10, A- season, A+ podcast season for us. I think it was really good. I'm looking forward to keep it going.
Yeah.
See us at meet us at breakfast. Meet you at breakfast. I will remember the name of our podcast before next year. But.
Yeah, next
I'm
season
just excited to educate you guys more on more Bravo people and others, because I have lots of opinions on lots of these reality people. So
we needed you. We needed your expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we can get one of the dating shows as another podcast if you're open to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I told Jenny the people to call my people. We'll do a Love Island podcast. We'll get it going. I take Love Island very seriously.
I'm willing to watch anything for content. So
and it's constant. Like, it's one of those things where it's on every day. So you'd have to do it like a weekly recap of like 4 episodes. So
yeah, hopefully
it's a lot of TV.
It'll be as entertaining as this Temptation Island, Mexico.
Yeah, the Spanish Temptation Island.
Yeah,
memes.
Crossing over.
So funny.
Yeah. So yeah,
I started getting like curated a bunch of those memes after we talked about it last, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't know what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's very interesting, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun to have you on, and I hope you had fun as a part of it.
My first podcast.
Yeah, it's first.
I
think this was a good season to be like your first one.
Yeah,
for
sure. Yeah, so, lots of content.
And then you're yelling at Brian about Bagel Boss at like 10 a.m. spirals out of control.
One day we'll get there. R.I.P. to Bagel Boss.
Maybe I don't think it. We don't unconfirmed.
Mm-hmm. We've been burying Bagel Boss.
Speculation.
Did he pop up again recently?
Yeah. I think he's still alive. He is. He's still going.
Every time we mention him, then shortly after,
it's like Beetlejuice. Yeah,
exactly. Oh man. Well, Ben, anything you want to promote before we get out of here?
No, I had a lot of fun. I'm also excited for a new Survivor season, 2 episodes in. So if you watch that, go check out the Blindsiders. I'm enjoying the cast so far for that. I'm enjoying, Deal or No Deal Island season 2 is wrapping up. I'm excited to see how that finishes out. I've been watching Extracted. Definitely like less bad than I expected. I wasn't totally sold on it coming in. Like the premise looked interesting enough and like sadistic enough that I was like, let me give this a shot. And there is actually some like social strategy elements to it that I didn't expect. So I'm enjoying that for what it is. Yeah,
love to hear that. As for me, please check out the main channel where you get everything. I just put a new video up there. Then our sports channel where you get sports, lots of videos pretty much all the time on that channel. And this is Better Radio. For all of our podcasts, if you're thinking you're gonna miss us, well, we got the Survivor podcast happening, and then Big Brother will be back. We'll see if we bring it back for that, and all kinds of reality TV shows to talk about. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.